That's right, Sulla and Gina. This is a story that we've been following for several months, and it's been a good while since an issue like this has generated such buzz in the normally quiet city of Harahan. The Harahan Police Department has about 20 people whose primary assignment is to patrol the streets of that city. In roughly the last year and a half, at least 15 street officers have left the department, quit, or have been terminated. A turnover rate of 75%.
Over a long period of time, you do have attrition. However, when it's sustained over a short period of time, you become very concerned.
Dr. John Penny is a criminologist at Southern University in New Orleans who, for 45 years, has not only studied crime in this area, but how police departments operate, and offers this as one of the first questions to be answered.
What is going on within the management structure of that department that would seem to permit that to happen?
I'd like to introduce to you the board members of the Civil Service Board.
The turnover rate has been a hot topic at several meetings of the Harahan Fire and Police Civil Service Board. They review all firings involving police. On at least 2 occasions, a local activist has asked the board to request that an investigation be done into the high turnover in the Harahan PD.
I'm here today basically to speak on behalf of the good and honest police officers that have come before this board prior and that are still here presently with HPD, as well as those that have either been forced to move on or who have, forced to move on one way or the other.
While no final decision has been made, discussions about what to do about the request are ongoing. In the meantime, WDSU Investigates drilled down into the numbers, and another thing stands out. Officers who were fired by the Harahan PD within the last year or so, but quickly reinstated by the board. Take Ronald Lytell, Michael Wright, and David Darwin. Sergeant Lytell, an 11-year veteran of Harahan PD, was fired in April by Harahan Police Chief Tim Walker for 5 alleged policy violations, including making false statements. He included information in a police report that another officer disputed. His case was taken up by the Civil Service Board in June.
All those in favor?
Board members quickly and unanimously made their decision to reinstate Lytell without having to hear from any of his witnesses.
Thank you very much.
Just prior to Lytell was Sergeant Michael Wright, a 3-year veteran of the Harahan PD, accused of as many as 20 policy violations, including making false statements and disloyalty to the department. He was not only fired and quickly reinstated in December of 2018, he was also fired and reinstated by the board just over a year earlier. Fired and reinstated twice in roughly 15 months. He resigned shortly after. Wright says while he feels vindicated since he was reinstated twice, the overturned firings seem to be hampering his efforts to continue police work.
I'm actually a finance manager. I've been forced out of police work, and then any police job I take, despite my qualifications, my veteran status, and my college education, I'm being turned down for every police job in the state.
Then there's Sergeant David Darwin. Chief Tim Walker fired him in May of this year for 3 policy violations, conduct unbecoming of a police officer, making false statements, and violating the department's rumor policy by making negative remarks about the department.
I make a motion that we reinstate David Darwin.
Just weeks ago, the board quickly reinstated him as well.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries.
Again, without having to hear from any of his witnesses. In these cases, the board says a law called the Officers' Bill of Rights, which strictly lays out how officers can be investigated and terminated, was not properly followed and reinstated the officers. Dr. Penny says the board's quick decisions to reinstate are of great concern to him.
Something internally is not procedurally being followed. And so in that case, it's very easy to overturn decisions made by management. And so in this case, you would assume that that is the same thing that is taking place here.
In addition to the request for the board to ask for an investigation into the high turnover rate in the Harahan PD, these issues have been brought to the attention of the Louisiana Attorney General's office and WDSU Investigates has been told that FBI agents have met with a handful of present and former Harahan PD employees, some more than once. The FBI would neither confirm nor deny their involvement, nor address any areas of interest. Harahan Police Chief Tim Walker declined to do an on-camera interview. In addition, just recently, 2 more employees left Harahan PD. One of them is one of the officers we covered in this report, Sergeant Ronnie Lytle. He resigned from Harahan PD and joined a nearby sheriff's office. The other was Lieutenant Thomas Bronk. Lastly, for some perspective on the numbers, if the same percentage of departures took place at NOPD and the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office, that would translate into several hundred officers and deputies.